Hello and welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's start. The room was quiet in the way legal rooms always are. Not tense, not hostile, just carefully controlled. I was 36 years old, sitting at a long conference table downtown, while my parents' attorney explained, calmly, professionally, why my family believed they were entitled to what my uncle had left behind. They expected compensation, access, recognition. They didn't expect the document my attorney placed between us. It was a single page, dated, signed, filed years ago, and it contained one sentence that changed the temperature of the room. Legally, my attorney said, they ceased being your parents on that date. If this story resonates with you, feel free to like or subscribe, only if it does. And if you want, tell me where you're watching from. Distance has a way of shaping people. I didn't grow up in an abusive home, that's important to say. No shouting, no broken objects, no dramatic scenes. What I grew up in was imbalance. My younger brother was celebrated loudly. His achievements were announced at the dinner table. His mistakes were reframed as potential. When he forgot assignments, reminders were sent. When I forgot something, it was a lesson. Birthdays made the difference obvious. His involved planning. Mine involved availability. If schedules were busy, mine shifted. His didn't. At school events, my parents sat front row for him and near the back for me. They took photos of his projects. Mine were glanced at, then placed back on the table. When teachers praised my grades, my mother smiled politely and said, "That's nice." When my brother passed with effort, it was, "We're so proud of you." No one ever said I mattered less, but no one acted as though I mattered equally either. I learned early how not to ask, how not to expect, how to succeed without drawing attention. By the time I was 13, I handled my own homework. By 15, I paid for my own extracurricular activities, not out of rebellion, out of efficiency. I don't tell this with anger. It's just what was. The breaking point wasn't explosive. It happened on a Tuesday night after dinner. I was filling out a scholarship application at the kitchen table. My father asked why my brother wasn't listed as a co-applicant. I said calmly that it wasn't that kind of scholarship, that it was individual. My mother put her fork down. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse me of anything. She said, "If you're going to be selfish, you can learn to be independent." There was a pause after that, the kind where you expect someone to soften the statement. No one did. That weekend, they helped me pack, not angrily, efficiently. My suitcase was placed by the door. My father stood nearby, arms crossed, not looking at me. My mother handed me a printed list of expectations for staying with my uncle, temporarily. No hugs, no tears, just logistics. I waited on the porch for almost 40 minutes for my uncle's car. No one came outside while I waited. My Uncle David wasn't emotional. He wasn't comforting in the way people imagine rescuers to be. He was steady. He cleared out his guest room without commentary, bought me a desk, asked what classes I was taking, what books I needed. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't take sides. When I said I wanted a job, he nodded. "Good," he said. But school comes first. Dinner was at 7. Bills were paid on time. Rules were consistent. When my parents stopped calling, he didn't mention it. When school forms needed signatures, he signed them. Once, a few weeks in, I asked how long I could stay. "As long as it takes," he said. I didn't know then that he had met with an attorney, that paperwork had been filed, that decisions were being made quietly. I just knew that the house felt stable. If you've ever had one adult change your life simply by staying present, you understand what that means. The years passed quickly after that. I finished high school, went to college on scholarships, worked summers, interned, graduated. I built a career that didn't look impressive from the outside but paid steadily. I learned how to read contracts, how to manage money, how to stay calm when things got tense. I didn't talk about my parents, not because it hurt, but because it stopped being relevant. There were no calls, no holidays, no emergencies. And I didn't reach out, not out of bitterness, out of clarity. By the time I was 30, my life was quiet and functional, the kind of life that doesn't need explanation. My uncle got sick suddenly. He didn't want sympathy. He wanted order. "There's nothing for you to worry about," he said one afternoon, sitting at the kitchen table. "Everything's handled." I didn't ask what he meant. When he passed, the house felt too still, but nothing felt unresolved. That was intentional. 2 weeks after the funeral, I received the first message. It came through an attorney. My parents expressed condolences. They referenced family history. They suggested reconnecting. Then came the second message. They were contesting the estate. They alleged undue influence, manipulation, isolation. They wanted a settlement. Have you ever noticed how quickly people remember you when paperwork is involved? My attorney didn't soften the situation. "They believe they were excluded improperly," she said. "They want leverage." She explained the cost of litigation, the exposure, the pressure to settle quietly. Then she asked if I'd ever seen the guardianship file. I hadn't. She placed a folder on the table. Inside was a document dated the year I moved in with my uncle. It was a voluntary relinquishment of parental authority, signed by both of my parents, filed without objection, no conditions, no expiration. The date stood out. It was the week after I packed my suitcase. My attorney spoke evenly. "Legally," she said, "they stopped being your parents that day." I was offered a settlement, enough money to end the dispute quickly, enough to avoid court. I thought about it longer than I expected, not because I needed the money, because truth carries weight. I declined, not angrily, not dramatically, just declined. The will reading took place the following week. My parents were there, their attorney was there, so was mine. The executor read the documents slowly. My uncle's estate was modest. The house, savings, investments built carefully over time. Everything was left to me. Then came the final clause. It addressed the challenge directly. It referenced the guardianship transfer, the relinquishment of rights, the absence of contact. It stated that my uncle had acted knowingly, independently, and deliberately. It also stated that any legal challenge would result in immediate forfeiture of any claim. The room stayed quiet. My parents didn't argue. They didn't protest. They just sat there, reading the copies placed in front of them. The meeting ended without confrontation. No raised voices. No accusations. Just the sound of papers being gathered. I haven't heard from them since. Not because I won, but because everything was already settled long ago. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's just documented,